Hello, welcome to another Minnesota Vikings news. Today we have a bomb that just arrived in Minnesota. This signing will shake up the NFL, and the fans will go crazy. So enough of the chit-chat, leave your like on the video, and let's get to today's news. Minnesota Vikings could shake up roster with $17 million college star and starter on alert. The Minnesota Vikings entered the 2025 NFL Draft with a challenge that was anything but simple: to pull off a magic move with just 4 picks available, the fewest of the league's 32 franchises. Still, the team decided to hold its ground and made a bold gamble with the 24th overall pick, selecting Donovan Jackson, a national champion with Ohio State and considered one of the most versatile offensive line prospects in college football. But that decision could trigger a real game of musical chairs on the roster, especially for current starting left guard Blake Brandel, who now sees his position threatened by the arrival of the elite rookie. Jackson, a 3-year starter for the Buckeyes, not only helped the team win the college football playoff national championship, but he also demonstrated the ability to play both left guard and left tackle. That flexibility makes him a coveted piece for any offensive line, and a possible direct replacement for Brandel. The situation is even more delicate for Brandel. Although he started 17 games in the 2024 season, his performance was considered below expectations. According to Pro Football Focus, he had the lowest evaluation of all Vikings offensive linemen last season. And the contract scenario doesn't help. A 6th-round pick in the 2020 draft, Brandel is entering the second year of a 3-year, $9.5 million contract, and after 2025, his contract is no longer guaranteed. That means the Vikings can release him with a post-June 1st designation, freeing up $3.5 million in salary cap space and carrying just $666,000 in dead cap space. Meanwhile, Jackson's arrival brings with it not only technical potential, but also financial. According to SpotTrack's projection, his rookie contract, based on the 24th overall pick, is expected to be worth around $17.1 million over 4 years. A considerable investment for a player who arrives with championship credentials and the promise of being the 6th best offensive tackle in the draft, according to respected analyst Dane Brugler of The Athletic. Vikings could have traded, but they trusted the planned draft night was busy from the start, with several trades even before the Vikings went to the clock. The Jacksonville Jaguars, for example, sent the 5th overall pick to the Cleveland Browns, a move that opened a series of negotiations involving the Texans, Rams, Giants, and Falcons. The Minnesota franchise, however, remained firm in its strategy and did not participate in the trades, despite behind-the-scenes speculation. ESPN's Kevin Seifert suggested that the Vikings may have had real opportunities to make a move. After the Vikings picked Donovan Jackson at number 24, the Texans and Rams swapped Northern 25 and 26, he wrote in a post on X. This suggests that Minnesota also had trade opportunities. Let's see what Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has to say about that. Despite the possibility of giving up the pick to accumulate more assets, Adofo-Mensah, the team's general manager, preferred to follow a plan focused on quality. If we really want 4 players at 4 specific positions with 4 excellent skill sets, let's do that, and we'll figure out the rest later, the executive said during a press conference on April 24th. With just 3 picks remaining, the next one at number 97 overall, the Vikings are demonstrating that they are betting on efficiency and surgical precision in this draft, something that could cost them dearly but also yield immediate results. A new chapter is approaching in Minnesota. The possible arrival of Donovan Jackson is already stirring up the franchise's backstage and putting direct pressure on Brandel, who now finds himself in a delicate situation: remain as a starter or lose his place to a high-level youngster with a championship pedigree. The fight for a spot on the offensive line will be one of the most interesting stories to follow during training and the preseason. Jackson arrives with great expectations, and the Vikings seem confident that he will be able to raise the level of protection for the quarterback, especially if the team continues to invest heavily in offensive pieces. For Minnesota fans, the only thing left to expect is, will the rookie really take the veteran's place, or will Brandel be able to surprise and hold on to his spot? One thing is certain: the draft has barely started, and the Vikings have already given the first sign that they are willing to change the game. Carson Wentz may be the ideal and forgotten quarterback for the Vikings, and no one is talking about it. The Minnesota Vikings are in a crucial moment of transition at the most important position on the roster: quarterback. With prospect J.J. McCarthy and backup Brett Rypien under contract, everything indicates that the franchise still needs to add one more name to the QB group. But while the 2025 NFL Draft limits the immediate possibilities, one name is starting to gain traction. Behind the scenes, Carson Wentz. He is not the public favorite, nor the name that shines in the rankings, but there are solid and quite convincing arguments to consider him the perfect choice to lead and guide the new generation in Minnesota. Amid rumors, logic, and strategy, the Vikings quietly watch the veterans' rumors about a possible big-name signing, like that of Aaron Rodgers, have already circulated in Minneapolis, igniting the imagination of fans. But as these speculations fade, the front office's focus should shift to more realistic and effective options. Carson Wentz, for example, may not be the headline of the moment, but he should be. At 32, Wentz has seen it all in the NFL. He started as a first-round pick with franchise savior status in Philadelphia, then moved to Indianapolis, Washington, Los Angeles with the Rams, and most recently was on the sidelines with the Kansas City Chiefs. Despite his ups and downs, he remains a player with plenty of experience and enough talent to fulfill a crucial role: mentoring J.J. McCarthy. More than just numbers, Wentz has a history with the Vikings coaching staff. The connection that makes Wentz such a natural choice: his past with Josh McCown, the Vikings' current quarterback's coach. The two were teammates on the Philadelphia Eagles, and McCown was full of praise when talking about Wentz's character and intelligence. According to him, Carson has a high football IQ, improvises well, and can throw on the move. By the end of that season, he played at such a high level that he seemed unstoppable. 4,000 yards without a single receiver over 500? That's absurd. More than just kind words, these statements carry weight coming from someone with a voice on the current coaching staff. McCown has influenced previous moves, such as the arrival of Sam Darnold last year, and has a history of betting on QBs he trusts, which makes Wentz a strategic asset. But why haven't the Vikings signed anyone yet? The reason is purely tactical. Despite the clear need, Minnesota has yet to bring in a veteran for a very specific reason: compensation in the 2026 draft. In practice, if the Vikings sign a player like Wentz for around $4 million before the draft, they risk losing one of their precious compensatory picks next year. This is a system that rewards franchises that lose more qualified free agents than they sign, and the value of those picks depends directly on the contracts and playing time of the players involved. That's why the franchise is in waiting mode. Starting at 3 p.m. on April 29th, right after the 2025 draft, the Vikings will be free to sign whoever they want, without affecting their future picks. It's just a matter of time. Who else is on the table? The alternatives include well-known names, but few perfect fits. Of course, Carson Wentz isn't the only option on the table. Other names have come up on the radar, with varying degrees of attractiveness. Drew Lock, experienced, with 28 games as a starter since 2019, and still with room for improvement, would be an interesting option, but still inconsistent. Trey Lance, young, talented, but raw. In terms of development, he could end up being more of a project than a solution. Joe Flacco and Teddy Bridgewater, two veterans with experience. Flacco in particular seems ready to take on a mentoring role, Bridgewater, with a history in Minnesota, could provide an emotional reconnection with fans, even though his time there is long gone. Other options like Case Keenum, C.J. Beathard, Desmond Ridder, and Jeff Driscoll are also available, but none of them seem to offer the complete package that Wentz brings. Real experience, connection with the coaching staff, and leadership skills. The Vikings are building something new with J.J. McCarthy, but even the greatest talents need support early on in the journey. Carson Wentz may not be the most exciting name on paper, but he has the credentials, track record, and trust from the coaching staff to fill exactly the role Minnesota needs: mentor, backup, and reliable backup. With the draft deadline approaching, all the pieces seem to be aligning for Carson Wentz to quietly be the missing piece to the Vikings' quarterback room. And perhaps it's the kind of move that will only be appreciated when the results start to show on the field.